Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prep One podcast.
Woo! Episode 5. Here we go.
Hey, we're at the milestone, man. Number 5. That's a milestone. Halfway to 10. One of those even numbers. Doing real good in the ratings. We actually hit 500 downloads already on the podcast.
Really?
Not only
Woo!
with the podcast and the stream together.
Mhm.
So that's pretty good. It's progress, and that's what we're trying to do: grow the brand, grow the podcast, and
Mhm.
hopefully, when it's all said and done, like I said, it ends up promoting our local high school athletes. That's kind of what the whole goal of the
Oh
Prep
yeah.
One
Oh
podcast
yeah.
is.
And thank you all for listening to us week in, week out. And we love the support. We love the feedback. So continue doing that and continue passing this on to your friends and family. And, we're also getting, Ryan, I'm also hearing through the grapevine. I'm hearing some people come out that they love hearing their kids' names out there. They love hearing their own
Yep,
name out there. And so that's what we want to do. And, you help us get bigger. And that's the only way we can do it is with all of you out there listening.
exactly.
Yeah.
And uh it was a crazy week of high school football for you and I, especially.
Mhm. Yeah.
We probably got to give a little apology because we were supposed to be out at a specific game that we said in
Yes.
the episode last week, but due to some changes
Mhm.
and little things that came up last minute, we ended up actually getting separated, covering two
Yes.
separate games, which we'll go
Mhm.
into what we covered later on in the episode. But that just goes to show things come,
Mhm.
and both you and I were offered a little bit of an opportunity to get
Oh,
our
yes.
feet wet, and
Mhm.
more of this type of atmosphere, but on the radio. So that's a really good thing.
Mhm.
Good opportunity for both of us to go ahead and be part of Football Friday nights as well.
Exactly.
So,
Mhm.
big
And it
shout
was
out.
a
Yeah,
yeah,
big
it was
shout
it
out
was a
to
great first experience with that. It was like you said, it just kind of came out. It wasn't really out of nowhere, but it was really fast how it happened. We didn't expect it to happen so fast, and yeah, I mean, it was like a what 4 day turnaround, and all of a sudden
yeah,
they assigned us a game, and we're on the radio on Football Friday nights, and working with Prep One with this, and working with football that gives us just a lot more high
yeah,
school involvement that
yeah.
we
So
can get
big
into.
shout out to, well, number one, Adrian Broadus for helping us get connected
Oh
with
yes.
Paul
Hmm.
McKinnon and Steve Escajeda and Bo Bagley and all them. Everything they do, their team does a great job out there. So happy to be aboard and happy to help out and be a part of two great organizations. It's pretty
Oh
awesome.
yes, definitely,
So
definitely.
before I remember, guys, always as always, like and subscribe below. Go ahead and click the button. Liking, subscribing only helps the channel grow. And if you're listening to the audio version of this on Spotify, Podbean, or Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave a 5-star rating. Make sure you leave a comment, hopefully a good comment at that, and just anything, any kind of positive feedback. Follow us on our social media. Twitter's right there at Prep One Podcast. Instagram is right there at Prep One Podcast,
Mhm.
and TikTok is
At the Prep One podcast.
at the Prep One Podcast.
Yes,
So we
sir.
got a lot of stuff in store for this next episode. As always, a lot of big things going on in the cross country world this past weekend, and
Oh yeah.
the episode's coming out a little bit late, but
Hmm.
better late than never. We'll get right into it. First thing is rolling the intro.
Yes, sir.
All right, and it looks like we're back. Everything's ready to
Yes.
go. Let's roll right into it, man. Let's dive into all the exciting
All
stuff.
right.
Jerry, I know you got a lot of cross country stuff to talk about today, so let's get right
Oh
into it.
yes. It was a big cross country weekend, and a lot of representation out of El Paso. Some big representation, and it was pretty fun. If you kind of follow along with cross country. Again, that's our goal. Let's get all these sports, not just football, not just basketball, everything, get it out there, and that's what I hope we're doing with cross country. And like I said, if you're not following, you need to start following
Hey, and
because
even though there's not a
it's
ball in
getting good.
cross country, man, even though there's not a ball in cross country, you can still SBH in cross country.
Yes,
Or
sir. Yes, you
SBG,
can. You can
SBG.
still ball out. Yes, you can. Show up, ball out. Get noticed.
Get noticed.
Here we go. And so this past weekend, okay, so like I said, we had a lot of representation out of El Paso. It
Okay.
was starting in Lubbock. Okay, Lubbock was this was a really really good meet to for practice before getting to those regional meets, getting to those state meets that are going to come up pretty soon. I believe in October, those meets come. So right here we got the girls' results out of the Lubbock Invitational, and this was the 6A division. What I really like what the Lubbock Invitational did, they split up the teams based off of their classification in the state. So
Oh,
you
okay.
kind of got a little bit of a
Good feel of
look
like who's
at
your
your
own class.
competition.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. See, yeah, you're not going up against all these 3A schools that you're not going to see at the state level. You're going to see these athletes you're competing against at the state level. So right here in the 6A division, we had Pebble Hills High School, pretty much the top dogs there out of El Paso. You had Natalia Martinez Lopez coming in 10th place with a time of 20:41. And then you had in 19th place Aubrey Arsenal of Pebble Hills High School coming in with the 21:33 and 6. Now, thing about this, what I like is that this 6A division for the girls is really close because even though some of you might be like, well, she got 10th and you know the haters, you know all the people that want to be negative about it. Look,
Mm-hmm.
she got 10th and it was great. She had a time of 20:41. The girl that won it all was out of Highland Park, which I believe is right outside of Dallas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Madeline Heckler. Madeline
Okay.
Heckler out of Highland Park. She won it with a time of 19:31.6. So Natalia was just a minute off. And if you have your top 10 competitors all within a minute, that's
Yeah,
that's tough right
that's
there.
some
That's going
close,
to be
stiff
exciting.
competition out there. But you
Yeah,
know what?
that's mm,
That's good because that shows them what they're going to be facing when they get to the state level, if they make it to the state level. So that's a good idea. That just shows Natalia you're finishing at 10th right now. Got to up those PRs, get your times up, and change that 10
mhm.
to a top 5 pretty soon.
Exactly. And there's one thing I've always said, and you were a coach, Ryan. I was a coach, and we always told our players, we always told our team, hey, always know there's someone better. You
Yeah,
got
you
to be
always
better.
you always
There's
got to kind of
always
like you tell our kids play with the chip on your shoulder, but in this case,
exactly. Hmm.
run with the chip on your shoulder. Always know that there's somebody out there that's going to be working just as hard as you
Hmm.
are, and you can't stop.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Whoops, I'm sorry.
Well,
And then we got the
oh yeah, that's
teams
right.
for
Team
the
finishings.
6A. Yeah, the teams. I apologize. Pebble Hills as a team, they did pretty great at this one. We got a fifth place out of Pebble Hills. Eastlake came in at eighth, and Americas at nine. I think that's pretty good that you got three El Paso teams coming out in the top 10. And this was pretty much like a state type, regional type preview,
Do you know who
so
won
that,
it
that
all?
gives me hope. I'm sorry?
Do you know who won it all at the girls level?
At the girls level, it was Highland Park as
Okay,
well.
so it's that first place finish and first place team finish.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, uh, and then right here for the boys 6A division,
Yeah, I know
okay,
that name. I know
yes,
that name.
sir. That name you're never gonna forget because he comes out every single time, and I'm telling you, watch for him to compete for that state title. Okay, Omer Ibrahim out of Pebble Hills High School, he got six with a time of 16:40. Okay, his teammate Noah Castonera got 17:38. He got 16th place, and then Diego Romero, another name we've heard a few times out of Americas. He got 19th. He got a time of 17:44. Okay. Now the teams going there, I'll get into the who got the first and second in a minute. But the teams, we got Pebble Hill showing up at this one, getting fourth, which I really love, and America's getting sixth. Again, a great showing for these teams getting these, as a team effort, being in the top 10 again, regional, and really looking good in this competition. In the individuals, the number one was Andrew Mullen out of Coppell, which is right outside of Dallas again, that Dallas Fort Worth area. That's where they get a lot of competition. You got Andrew Mullen out of Coppell with a time of 16:06. So just 34 seconds off right there from the sixth place spot. So again, those top those top dogs right there are all
within a half a minute of each other, 30-second
ex-
little
I
frame.
mean, you see them all coming across that finish line just right, one right after the other, which is just crazy. And then for the boys, the number one team was Copel. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So Copel's the one that won it all, but again, Pebble Hills just a couple of spots off right there. So that's a great competition, and I think El Paso really, showed us something, showed out, and now they know, hey, this is the level we got to be at. We got to get that much better. Now the 5A
SBG,
division,
buddy, SBG.
SBG, yes sir. The 5A division, okay, the 5A classification, again, that's what I love. They split them up. So now here we got Hanks showing up here. Okay, we haven't really talked too much about Hanks.
Hey,
And Hanks
shout out
really
Coach
showed up.
Delk. Shout out Coach Delk for the Hanks
Yes,
Knights right there.
sir. And right there you got Elizabeth Aguirre with a time of 20:53 and Destiny Loesa with a time of 20:53 as well. They literally, I saw a photo of it. I should have put it up here. I apologize for not doing so. I thought of it too late, but there is a photo of both of them literally
We're right there
crossing
crossing
that
neck and
fishing
neck.
line right together. So that is not a typo. That is not a mistake. They literally just got it done
Hey,
together.
but that ninth and 10th finish, good enough, I
Hmm.
see, for seventh
Oh,
place. Hey, shout out to Hanks, man.
well,
That's
yeah,
pretty good.
and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it takes these big competition meets to really find those sleepers. And Hanks could be one of those sleepers. And you saw, like you already pointed out, Hanks gets number 7, Chapin's number 13, and Burgess comes in at number 14. So again, a good showing, top 20, top 10. They're right in that mix. Out of the 5A division, for the girls, you had a Reese Peña out of Lubbock. She finished with a time of 18:50. Okay, so Hanks, they got a little bit to work at, a little bit to get up there. They're a couple of minutes behind, but
So local girl, you said, right? Local girl won it in the 5A level.
no, well, regional girl, if you want to
Oh,
say, she
okay.
was she was from Lubbock,
Well, yeah,
Lubbock
from
High
the
School.
Lubbock Invitational, yeah.
Yes. So, local girl from Lubbock. Yes. Okay, I
Yeah,
see
it's
what
from
you
that
meant. I
yeah,
thought you meant here. That's my
local girl
bad.
to the Lubbock Invitational. I mean, we're not in El Paso.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, no, no. Yeah. Lubbock Invitational. And in the girls' division, you had Abilene actually taking the win in that one. So Abilene took the 5A girls top spot in the teams, right? So I mean that's pretty good. I'm not sure if they finished in the top 3, but Abilene takes that one right there.
Okay.
Now moving on to the boys, you had another Hanks show up, Alejandro Tarin. He gets second in this one with a time of 15:46. Okay, and just to show the timing frame there, first place was David Mora out of Lubbock, Monterey. He was 15:36. So just a 10-second difference. So Alejandro, he's right there. He's right there at that. And then the third place is 15:54 by Andrew Villa out of Abilene. So again, that's just again showing how close we are here with these kids. And with the teams, you got Hanks again showing up. You got Hanks coming in at 6, Chapin coming in at 7, Jefferson at 14, and Burgess at 16. And the boys, it was Argyle that ended up winning that one for the 5A division.
Hey, well, you know what? Shout out to Hanks and shout out to Chapin. This is like the third week in a row that we see Chapin ranked, up in the top at one of these finishes, or even
Mhm.
having one of their athletes finish up in the top runners. So
Yeah,
Hanks,
Chapin.
Chapin
Mhm.
doing great things out in Lubbock. So good to you all. Good
Oh
shout
yeah,
out to
and
them.
if and I always said, yeah, you got all these meets, but if you really show out at some of these meets that are huge and big and really show you what's going to happen at the end of the season, I think that's you get that advantage moving forward. And like I said, all of these district and regional and state meets are coming up pretty quick. Um, Now the 3A division, okay, we had a really good showing here. Really, really good showing. You had Daniel Romero out of Tornillo with a time of 16:18, and then you had Angel Torres getting fourth with a time of 17:5. Daniel Romero getting second, and Tornillo as a whole ends up getting second
But
on
the
this.
but the question is, man, who beat Daniel Romero? That's
So
a
that's the story right here. Okay, so now, like I mentioned earlier, there's always someone better. There's always going to be someone better. So you have to work to beat the best, to beat that person who is or claims to be better than you, and you got to prove it. And right now, this is going to be fun to watch, okay? Because this is probably like a preview to come for the state meet, and the winner was out of Holiday. His name's Noah Stroman, and he ran a 16:08. So just 10 seconds again. That 10-second difference seems to be
the little
the,
steep threshold area.
comfortable
Yeah.
spot, you know. And then in third place, in between Daniel and Angel, you had Samuel Bryan out of Jim Ned, who I believe their football team actually played for a state title last year. I
Okay.
can't remember if they won or not, but I remember seeing them. But Samuel Bryan out of Jim Ned ran a 16:58. So he was also kind of right in that mix. But Daniel and Noah showing that they're the two top dogs in that 3A right now, and they're not to be messed around with. And team, the
Hey, but that's
team
good.
winning,
It shows Daniel where he needs to get to, man. It shows
yes,
Daniel that work on that PR 10 seconds
mhm.
more, get to that spot. For all we know, too, he might have been a bad day for Daniel. We don't know. I mean, we
Yeah,
weren't out
and,
there, but that just shows you got to go out, come out every single day ready to go. And hopefully, hopefully he gets to race him again at the state level, and
oh
you
yeah,
see you see it
and
flip flop.
again, that's why I said I love what the Lubbock did here. They split up the classification, so now you're really competing against who you're going to compete in at the end of the year. And so you got number one Presidio winning the teams, and number three Jim Dead, who came out to win it there.
Oh, good job, Tornillo, man. Number 2 out in the Lubbock Invitational. Shout out to them, to the Coyotes,
Yes, sir. Now,
not the locals.
yeah, we get back a little locally here, and you got El Paso High Invitational. Again, El Paso High is one of those teams that's just coming up, coming up big. They're really showing out every week, and balling out. They're getting noticed. So right here, we'll begin right here, sweeping the El Paso Invitational. You got all El Paso girls here: Andrea Castillo, Jezere Valenzuela, Sofia Ramirez, and you got their times there: 21:06, 21:28, 21:49. I mean, what more can you say right there? El Paso
At,
High just showing what they can do as a team.
at the girls level, man. Yeah, that's consistency. That's teamwork. That's 1, 2, 3. That I mean, they cleaned house in that one. They cleaned house in that one.
Oh, definitely. And it proved it right here. They end up getting the number one spot, El Paso, number two, Coronado, and number three, Socorro. Socorro is also another team. We don't really see too many of their girls' names on there, but they're really, showing out. They keep getting one of these top spots every week, So as a team, they're doing good. They're doing something good out there. The boys now at the El Paso High Invitational. This one was a little bit of a different story. You had Edgar Valles out of Coronado going 16:10. You have Preston Eastman out of Coronado 16:35, and then El Paso Miles Westbrook going 17:08. Okay, El Paso still getting the big win there. So as a team, El Paso's doing great. Individually, again, you got the individual aspect of the sport, you got the team aspect of the sport. El Paso High getting it. Typo there. I apologize for that. You got Coronado. It's not Corpnado. Coronado and Del Valle
Corp
coming in third.
NATO. I like Corp NATO. No, I'm just kidding. Let's go.
And so I mean, so yeah, so I mean, good competition again. I know I was hyping up a lot of Lubbock, but again, that's I mean when you're able to compete with those state level guys, I mean that really helps out here.
Yeah, I mean,
But
we see a lot. We week in and week out, we keep seeing a lot of the local teams competing against each other. So, you know, we kind of know what we're gonna get out of the local teams against local competition and what to expect. So that's why we're hyping out these out of town meets now at this point, because getting closer to regional time, getting closer to state time, and at this point, you got to see now, challenge yourselves, see where you compete now against the rest of the state. Uh, some teams with the rest of the nation, for that matter, but you'll get into that in a little bit.
oh yeah, we'll see. Exactly. Don't get ahead of me there, Ryan. Don't get ahead of me, all right? uh, moving forward here, you got the Cathedral Invitational, which is also another big one, here in El Paso. The Cathedral Loreto Invitational. You get a lot of good competition out there. This one, the boys' side, you're gonna see right now, it was really different than the girls' side. So the boys' side, there's a little more competition here, where you had Michael Castañeda out of Parkland with a time of 16:52 taking it. You had Oscar Guzman out of Franklin taking it number two, 16:56, and then you had Israel Quintana, Emmanuel Christian with a time of 21:45.
Man,
Okay,
when you
so
think about it, man, Michael Castadera and Oscar Guzman were probably, already packing up, getting in their cars and stuff by the time the rest of the runners showed up, man. It was
just
what,
a little bit. I
like
mean
a
that
4 minute time difference after that. So
yeah. So I mean, if you ever want to say there was probably a blowout in cross country, that's probably what it looks like right there. When you get a 4 minute difference, I mean, it
yeah,
doesn't really look that great. But
they were probably wondering if they even ran the right try the right route
yeah,
on that one.
they probably got an Uber at some point there. Now taking nothing away from those guys, they right there they SPG'd right there, okay, and
Yeah,
we're noticing them right there, and nothing against anyone else competing. You get a winning's winning, right? So you get third place, you get third place. First place out of this meet, you get Franklin. Second place, you got Parkland. Third place, you got Canotillo. And the girls, like I said, is going to be completely different. As you can see, another sweep here in El Paso. You got Franklin sweeping the top three. You got Sienna Zareta with 21-28. You got Brooke McCoon 21 34, and you got Tessa Gibbons with a 21-45. So again, the Franklin girls, we've mentioned them before, okay, along with the Franklin boys. They're up and coming. They're really competing out there. They're one of the top dogs in 6A, one of the top dogs here in El Paso, and they're really showing it every week here. Team
yeah.
wise, taking the top spot, obviously. Bel Air taking number 2, and number 3 being Isleta.
And it begs the question too, man, is maybe, with all these teams competing in out of town meets this week, maybe that kind of diluted the competition for some of these teams. Like that's why you have Franklin, sweeping at 1, 2, 3. That's why you have El Paso High sweeping at 1, 2, 3, because we don't normally see sweeps
Yeah.
at the. So that's another thing to consider.
Mhm. No, yeah, and that's a good point, Ryan. And one of the things I've always said, hey, next man up. If someone steps off, next. So if that team's not there, that doesn't mean okay, I'm not going to compete against the best. No, that just shows you, hey, I can really show what I got. That way, when I get to the best, they got something to think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Now, those were the results. Now, this week's events, okay, I had mentioned all these district meets are starting to come up. So now you have Clint ISD, the Clint Invitational. You have, of course, all your Clint schools, and then you have a lot of Isleta schools out there. You got Riverside, Bel Air, Isleta del Valle, these Women's Leadership Academy, Parkland, Hanks, Sanelli, Clint, Horizon, Mountain View, Anthony, right there, Valle Verde, the early college, Fabens, Loreto, Radford, Canotillo, and Tornillo. So you have pretty much all the smaller schools going to that meet right there. And then the other meet oh, by the way, Clint will be on Friday. Okay, so that's going to be a Friday meet. EPISD, SISD, that will be on Saturdays. You see, both of them are going to be at the same location, the Horizon Golf Course. So that's why they're not going to go on at
So
the
what you're
same time.
telling me is to don't schedule a tea time on Friday or Saturday at
Exactly.
at 8 a.m. Got it.
Sorry, people. That yeah, golf's going to be on pause for one day to show out these great cross country athletes. So EPISD, SISD, you got Coronado, Irvin, Austin, Franklin, Burgess, El Paso, Chapin, Bowie, Andres, Jefferson, Pebble Hills, Eastlake, Montwood, Socorro, Americas, and El Dorado. I think that's probably going to be a really good one to see because you got all the big names in there. So it's gonna be real fun, to see what the results are coming out of that meet. Now you got your top 10, okay? Top 10. We mentioned something about the national level here earlier.
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I
we
sure did.
got a little touch on it. So last week we had a discussion about Eastwood going out to this national meet, and we were like, where the heck is this meet at? We didn't know. Turns out it was out of Irvine, California. Okay. They went over there, they SBG'd, and they did, in my opinion, great
They showed
because,
up, balled out, and they got notice at the
oh, yeah,
national
because,
level at one of the biggest meets.
yes, sir, biggest meet. How many schools, Ryan? Do you remember?
I boy, you saying like up to 400 and something or something like that?
About 400. And they did the kind of the similar thing that Lubbock did. They kind of split everyone off into divisions. So obviously it wasn't 400 schools against 400 schools. So they kind of split them off into divisions. But Eastwood did great because in their division, the boys, they end up getting 24th place. I know that that's kind of sounds bad, but when you're competing against, the 400 other schools, and yeah, they split you up
From
into
across the
divisions.
nation at that.
Exactly. Across the nation, they split you up to divisions. You're probably getting split up into divisions of 50 or 100, depending on how many divisions they have. So, still getting 24th place nationally, I think that's just great. And props to those guys. The same on the other side, you got the Eastwood girls at number one, and for the same reason, Eastwood girls did better. They got 17th
All
place.
right, ladies. All right, ladies.
17th
Way to
place. And
show up.
it's not top 10. Hey, this is national. This is mid-season. You don't know. Maybe come later on, they do another national ranking or another national meet, and it's a different story. Okay, but hey, they showed up, balled out. They got noticed. Got 17th, 24th. That's why they're number one on our top 10 this week because nationally they went out there, they competed, and they really showed up and represented El Paso well, in my opinion. Number
Like,
two, you got for the boys. Number two, you got Franklin. Like I said, they're up and coming. They're still rolling. They still keep pounding out there. They're doing great. You got number three, Coronado, right behind them. Number four, Pebble Hills. Number five, El Paso. I told you El Paso is one of those teams that are just coming up, coming up. You got Sanelli, the defending state champs, at number six. You got Tornillo at number seven, Chapin number eight, America's number nine, and Bel Air at number 10. Now, on the girls' side, we got a couple of new faces. So you got Eastwood number one, you got Franklin at number two, Pebble Hills number three, El Paso at number four, Montwood at number five, number six, Canotillo at number seven, and there you go, Hanks right there, coming up again, number eight, number nine, Coronado, and number 10, Americas. And that just shows right there the level of competition we got going into these district meets and going to these regional meets that are coming up quick. And we already saw in Lubbock how we're faring up against the majority of the state. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but I like our odds going forward here. I
it's a
think
lot of
we're gonna
promise, man. It's a lot of promise. There's a lot of guys, a lot to look forward
yes,
to say
I
the
think we're
least.
gonna have
So
quite a few people up on those podiums at the end of the year. And I think we're gonna have a lot of medals coming home. Who knows? Maybe we might have more than one state championship team coming out of there at the rate these teams are competing. So we'll see then, and good luck and keep balling out. Our soaring 7. Another big difference here because this week, as we saw, there was a lot of team effort. And even though cross country, a lot of people say is an individual sport, like we've always said, you still have that team aspect in there. So now, right here, obviously, number 1, you got Eastwood, okay, showing up, boys and girls teams showing up out there in
Doing
nationally.
what they got to do out at the national level,
They did it.
making a name
Yes.
for
Oh
themselves.
yeah.
Good for
And
them.
like I said, they're representing themselves. They're representing the city. They're representing Texas. I mean, it was awesome. Number 2, you have Hanks. Okay, because Hanks, they're really proving themselves. Some, you may say, well, individually, it doesn't matter. As a
Right.
team, they're doing great,
Hey,
and that's
Hank,
what's
the Knights came out this week in cross
yeah,
country because we hadn't been hearing too much of them, but this week people took notice.
exactly. They took where did they take notice? At the state level. They against
Yeah.
all these big teams, they really showed up there. Number 3, obviously, another name we've heard before, Daniel Romero, being probably having the best turnout out of all the individuals out there at that state meet at that Lubbock Invitational.
Yeah, not
Coming
if
in at
Alejandro
second.
has anything to say about it. Not if
I
Alejandro
know
has anything to say about it.
Alejandro was right behind him right there. He's making a name for himself. Alejandro Tarin out of Hanks again, helping those Hanks Knights, get to where they're going, get to where being a leader out there, really showing it physically, showing it mentally, showing it by example. That's what you need to do as a leader. Number
The
5,
sweepers.
you got
The sweepers.
the sweepers right here. You got number 5. Okay, you got number 5, El Paso. Okay, what more can I say? I've said so much about them already. They're really up and coming. They are just one of those teams to be reckoned with. Right behind them, you got Franklin, another pretty much the same storyline with El Paso. Only difference, they're not in the same classification. So you're not going to see them compete at that state level. So that's good for us as the fans, as the people here in El Paso. That's where I say we may be looking at some teams out there, representing well instead more so than the individuals. And number 7, you got Tornillo being led by Daniel and Angel out there. They're doing great, really balling out. They're really showing up and moving forward there. I really think, Tornillo has a good shot this year as a team, really showing up out there. So that's why I had a lot of teams on the soaring 7 because, yeah, it's an individual sport, but these teams are really showing up and showing out in SPG. That's all I got to say, SPG.
Nice. All right. So I was making sure. I was like, I didn't want to cut you off and make sure you
Yeah, no,
weren't done
sorry.
with
I had a little technical difficulties here.
that's it called. Yeah. So you know what? A lot of good stuff out in the cross country world. And again, like as always, big shout out to all those teams and all those players that we have. Sorry, runners that we don't mention that often. So big shout out to the new names that we see on those lists. Now we'll go right into volleyball. Let's let this load up here real quick. Okay. So real quick, we're gonna go dive right into the Tuesday volleyball recap, and then we'll hit up the Friday recap. So right off the bat, you can see you've got at the 6A level, Franklin Cougars sweeping the East Lake Falcons, El Paso Tigers, okay, sweeping the Chapin Huskies. And again, that Paso Tigers team, it's one of the most consistent teams, especially in that district. But they're showing right now that they're the top dogs because so far nobody's really been able to really take it to them just as of yet. Canutillo Eagles getting swept by the Jefferson Silver Foxes. The Fabens Wildcats, okay? Class 4A against Class 5A right there, defeating the Isleta Indians 3-1. Eastwood Troopers sweeping the Socorro Bulldogs. Parkland and San Elizario Eagles, okay? San Eli in a good match that went the distance, all 5 sets. The San Elizario Eagles take it to the Parkland Matadors.
Another 4A, 5A matchup.
Yeah, and all those 4A, 5A matchups are getting good. Like, you got Horizon Scorpions and Clint Lions, another 4A, 5A going the distance, 5 sets, and Clint comes out on top. So, that those Tuesday scores, you had 4A
Mhm.
really, kind of handling Class
They
5A with
that's one thing
Fabian.
that's one thing, Ryan, I wanted to say is that with volleyball, especially out here, there's really no way of saying, "Oh, you're in 6A, you're gonna beat everyone." You got some teams down there in those because some of those 4A schools can take it to some of these 6A schools, actually.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter how many kids you have in school. That classification is just based off of your student population, but the talent is really, really spread out. But we have a lot of talent here, so you have a lot of good competition here
Yeah,
in
and
the
especially like
volleyball world.
the sports that don't have as many to field, for
Yeah,
their that are on the field at one time, it's a lot different. Basketball, you can have
mhm,
teams compete at different levels. Football's a lot harder when you have,
yeah,
11 to 22 guys out on the field that you gotta, specialize in.
yeah.
But so then going on, in the Class 6A level, you had El Dorado Aztecs taking on your America's Trailblazers. America all over them, 3-1. In a exciting matchup, you had Pebble Hill Spartans and the Mountwood Rams.
Ooh,
This again, one of those games to watch that we had mentioned
mhm,
last week. 6A rivalry games. Mountwood Rams all over the Pebble Hill Spartans. You got people doing work like Kennedy Garcia, week in, week out, always performing for the Mountwood Rams, but they're doing their thing. The Loretto Angels, shout out to the private schools,
yeah,
taking down Hanks in 5 sets, 3-2. Bel Air all over the Riverside Rangers, sweeping them 3-0. Austin Panthers, Irvin Rockets, a Class 4A showdown, went the distance with the Austin Panthers coming out victorious in 5 sets. Midland Christian taking on Emmanuel Christian Warriors, and that might have been
mhm,
one of those that was just kind of like a David versus Goliath type of matchup
yeah,
there. I mean, Emmanuel Christian's been doing good locally, but Midland Christian always has a lot of top athletes. Fort Hancock over the Tornillo Coyotes, and then in a pretty good, interesting
mhm,
5A battle, the Burgess Mustangs over the Andress Eagles 3-1. We kind of already solidified that El Paso High is the top dog when it comes to Class 5A in that district. But, you know, who are the next ones? You got Burgess making some noise. Chapin has some things to say. Andress has some things to say. Canatillo has something to say. So, lot going on that we really
yeah,
need to, see. Now for the Friday results, okay, I'm going to run through these real quick. Austin defeats Harmony. Hanks defeats San Elizario. Coronado, okay, and Coronado was already holding our top spot. They go ahead and blank America's 3-0, sweeping them. Fabens defeats Horizon. So Fabens again taking out two 5A schools in back-to-back games. 5 sets as well. So, shout out to the Fabens Wildcats doing their thing. Isleta defeats Riverside 3-0. Franklin defeats Pebble Hills. And remember, I keep talking about these 6A
mhm,
matchups every weekend. And it's crazy how they go down because all these teams keep fluctuating in the standings. So you keep
yeah,
thinking that games are going to be, going down to the wire, but it's just like weekend. We got someone sweeps the other team. So now you got Franklin sweeping Pebble Hills, Eastwood sweeping Mountwood. Um, and then you got Anthony defeated Jesus Chapel. Chapin defeated Anderson. I mentioned this earlier.
mhm,
Who's going to be that 2, 3, and 4 playoff spot between Chapin, Andress, Canatillo, Burgess? They're all kind of neck and neck there. El Paso High defeats Canatillo 3-1. Young Women's Leadership Academy all over Irvin. El Dorado takes on Socorro and defeats them 3-1. And finally, Clint defeats Parkland 3-0. I will say 5A did not fare very well last week against the 4As, but sometimes that
It-
happens. Sometimes it's not their week.
you know what, Ryan? I gotta say, I really like how this competition's faring out because the best way I can explain it, this really reminds me of that infamous '07 college football season where the week came in and it didn't matter if you were number 1 or number 10 because you just never knew
It was
who
full of
was going to be
surprises.
your
It
new.
was always full of surprises.
Exactly. Just it was that next week was always fun to watch because you just knew someone was gonna get upset. Someone was gonna go home crying and losing that top spot. But it was just fluctuating the whole year, and that's what this is reminding me of. This is just fluctuating, and it is just fun to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely fun to watch. Now going on, we've got our Prep One podcast, Soaring Seven. Okay,
Sure.
lot of awesome individual performances this week. You know, and a lot to look at between Tuesday's games and Friday's games, and uh, this is what we ended up coming up with. So we got as our first person in the Soaring Seven. You got from Burgess High School, Crystal Dominguez, 25 kills, 2 blocks, 8 digs, and 1 ace in a big district win over the Andress Eagles. And I can tell you, those are going to be the big ones that
Yeah.
count because
Hmm.
it's all for playoff seeding now at this point. You know, who are going to get those extra wins to, knock off the second seed, third seed, fourth seed. And, who's going to be that odd team out? Which one's not going to make it? But Crystal Dominguez had something to say. Burgess all over the Andress Eagles. Number 2, El Paso High School, and we mentioned this player last week as well, showing her consistency, showing that she can show up, ball out, and get noticed, and we're noticing her again. Hannah Garcia, 28 assists, 8 digs in a win over the Chapin Huskies. And again, El Paso High School, one of the most consistent in the 5A level in El Paso, continuing to roll over their district, and Hannah Garcia is a big part of that program. Another one, team that we haven't really heard too much from, and we haven't really been getting too many out of this school, but from Austin High School, you
Hmm.
got Zoe Natara, 14 kills, 28 digs, 7 assists, and 3 aces in a win over the Irvin Rockets. Okay, so that's a big one. I like it when we
Yeah.
get some of these schools that you don't hear too often. So, great shout out to Zoe. Hanks High School. Sorry about that. Hanks High School, you got Yasmin Ingo. Okay. And I think she was on our Soaring Seven, maybe in the first week that we did our show, but
Yeah.
she comes out again. Or you know what? She might have been one to watch. But either way, she's proving that she is one to watch because she
Hmm.
got 18 assists, 3 aces, 11 digs, in a win over the San Elizario Eagles. Yasmin Ingo is really showing that she's a force to be reckoned with on the hardwood and is doing her thing. So shout out Yasmin. Number 5 from the Coronado High School, Ashley Macias. Okay, and I like this because it's a different name from the usuals that we're always seeing here, and she's one of
Hmm.
the top ones too. Ashley Macias finished with 13 kills, 2 blocks, 4 digs, and 5 aces. Okay, in a win over Americas, another district win, another big matchup there, and Coronado took it to him. Ashley Macias, big part of that. At number 6, Isleta High School's Abby Garcia had a big day, man. 11 kills, 2 aces, and 15 digs in a win over the Riverside Rangers. Okay, shout out to that because that's a big rivalry right there too. Pride of the Lower Valley, Isleta, Riverside, and
Oh, yeah,
that's a
don't.
hard one for me to say. I'm a Riverside alumni, but you know what? I gotta give credit where credit is due. So you got to give that shout out. Good job, Abby Garcia. Um, Number 7, you have Chapin High School, Brea Williams. Okay. 11 kills, 3 blocks, 3 aces in a win over the Andress Eagles in 5 sets. So that one went down to the wire, 5 sets long. And again, I tell you, these district games in 5A are going to mean something,
Hmm.
Chapin, Burgess, Andress, Canutillo. The way I see it is you got El Paso at number 1, and you got 4 other teams fighting for 3 spots. So that's going to be exciting to watch and see who gets those final 3 spots in the playoffs.
Or who? Let's see who. Maybe someone comes out of nowhere and knocks El Paso off that top
And
spot.
that's true too. They can't get complacent. They can't get complacent
Yes.
and got to keep showing
Remember,
up
there's
every week.
always someone better.
Let's see. Going on now, we've got our Prep One's top 10 power rankings. And of course, for the I think third week in a row, you got the
Hmm.
Coronado Thunderbirds showing, they can keep staying consistent in that tough, brutal Class 6A level. Franklin Cougars right behind them. And we've seen some fun matchups between those two already this year, with them exchanging wins. So battle of 1 and 2 right there. Eastwood Troopers come in at number 3, another 6A that we'll actually get into in a little bit. We'll talk about that because Eastwood's got a big game coming up. So that's one to look for. El Paso Tigers, we mentioned them many times, and we mention them each week, week in, week out, coming in at number 4. Mount Wood Rams at number 5. The Burgess Mustangs, okay, the next big team in that 5A district that I tell you, all those teams are battling for that spot. Burgess Mustangs. Del Valle High School, the Conquistadores at number 7. Pebble Hills at number 8. Americas at number 9. And the Hanks Knights
Hanks.
rounding up our top 10. at number 10. On the outside looking in, you got the Chapin Huskies, the Jefferson Silver Foxes, and the Canutillo Eagles. A lot of games coming up this week where top 10 can see a lot of fluctuation, okay, depending on some of these teams doing well in the top 10 and some of these teams on the outside looking in, balling out this week. It could change. So that's your Prep One's top 10. Our Prep One's power rankings. Going up, we're going to look at some of the matchups for the next, actually for tomorrow or today, depending on when the podcast gets released. It
Right.
might be actually tonight if we're
On
being,
Tuesday.
yeah, because this is being recorded on Monday. We'll
Yes.
release Tuesday morning, most likely. So some of the big matchups tonight and on Friday. So just so we get that clear, because we got to make sure we're staying positive. A lot of matchups, obviously. A lot of Tuesday matchups going. I'm gonna let you read some of them. I'm not gonna go through every single one. Got some big 6A1s. Pebble Hill Spartans against the East Lake Falcons. Tuesday, you got Andress Eagles against the El Paso Tigers. Going on, let's see. Straight down the list on El Dorado Aztecs, Mountwood Rams. You can't count anybody out in that 6A
No.
district. Hanks got a big one against the Bel Air Highlanders. Hanks is barely hanging on in the top
Yeah.
10 right there. So they got to make sure that they have some big wins. Eastwood Troopers against the Franklin Cougars. I told you,
That's a big one
Eastwood's
right
got
there.
their work cut out for them this week. That's going to be a big one. Tonight, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., Eastwood Troopers against the Franklin Cougars. That's definitely a matchup that you want to get to. So if you're not doing anything, get there.
Yes.
Let's see. Going on, the Canutillo Eagles and the Burgess Mustangs. Another big one in the Class 5A, Again, it's that playoff race. East Lake Falcons against the Eastwood Troopers. Those are two big games for Eastwood that they can really do to help their playoff position. And finally, in the last game on the bottom of the list, bottom right, and this is only part of the schedule, but you have Mountwood Rams, Coronado Thunderbirds. So you got two in our top 10. That's going to be a big one. Let's see if Coronado can, stay at the top 10 for a fourth week in a row and show that they are the team to beat in that district. Rounding up the final volleyball games, if you will, you have Franklin Cougars taking on the El Dorado Aztecs in another 6A matchup. Chapin Huskies against the Burgess Mustangs. Okay, another big one. Like I said, a lot of implications that could go on. Chapin is one of our teams on the outside looking in. So with those two big games that they have, if they get that win versus Jeff and that win versus Burgess, they'll likely get that push to get into the top 10. Again, Andress Eagles versus the Canutillo Eagles is another big one. Maybe one of those is the odd man out to get to that final playoff spot.
I say the Eagles win that one.
The Eagles probably will. That's a matter of which ones. Top games to watch. First one, Eastwood versus Americas. We talked about it. Eastwood's got to have a big week. As long as they keep it going, that's going to be a big one to watch. Mountwood versus Coronado. Will Coronado get dethroned and lose their top seed? We don't know. It's time to see. And then I mentioned the two Jefferson ones. Notice there's a typo there for Burgess. Sorry about that, Burgess, but I know. Pretend you don't see that extra S there. I was just really stressing Burgess. But yeah, no, big one. I want to see if Chapin, one, couple things. They get those two wins. Two, can they, improve their standing in district play? And maybe they could crack the top 10. So a lot to be playing for this week as volleyball is starting to, get real into the big nitty gritty and mix things. A lot of exciting things, a lot of exciting play when it comes to volleyball.
Yes, sir. No one's safe. No one's safe.
Woo! No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, it's a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff, a lot of things happen. And we say the football segment always for the end because we were both ex-football coaches. It's kind of one of the biggest things we're passionate about, and we have a lot to cover. There's we'll dive right into it when it comes to the scores, and we got stuff that we can really talk about at the football level. So we're gonna go ahead and put the scores up here real quick.
Alrighty.
And all right, cool. So some of the games, and we'll start at the very top. You had the Pebble Hill Spartans, El Dorado Aztecs. I'm not gonna lie, it was a much closer game than I was expecting this one to be. Pebble Hills is our number one team in the
Mhm.
Prep One's top 10. I know Gael Ochoa, Jalil Boast, all those guys ball out. Jacob Ledesma. But you know what? Ray did his thing. Ryan Estrada, he did what he had to do. Still, he's a freshman, can't carry everything. And El Dorado, I just feel like they just need a couple more pieces, but they're there. They're there. They can
Yeah.
compete, and it showed. Pebble Hills. It
You know,
wasn't like they completely just ran all over.
yeah, and that's one thing I was gonna say because my biggest proponent on Pebble Hills all season, all year long so far has been their defense. I think their defense is the biggest backbone of that team. That's what's helping them really win games and win games big. And El Dorado was able to really, find those holes, find those little gaps to get through, and really took it to Pebble Hills. I mean, I know you and I were kind of talking about it like around halftime. We're like, is Eldorado really,
Yeah,
in
it's
there?
a lot.
It was kind of odd,
Closer than we all expected, for sure.
Yeah, and taking nothing away from Eldorado, they're great. They have a good team this year. They got a great offense. They just, Pebble Hills has just been that dominant factor, and this is one of those games. Who knows? Maybe it was an off night. Maybe Eldorado did find those little weaknesses, but I think it's just gonna help both teams moving into this week. And then now, uh, the games we were gonna be at this past week, for the football Friday night, myself, I was at Cathedral versus Anthony. Okay, we all know I'm a Cathedral alum, so yeah, this one kind of stung a little bit, but all in all, it was a decent game. Unfortunately, both teams have a lot to work on. They have a lot to figure out of this game. One of the biggest stories out of this game, in my opinion, was unfortunately there were some turnovers. So that's one thing these both teams are going to be looking out for. The score was a lot closer than I believe it was going to be, because of these turnovers. But the name to really know about this week coming out of this game, okay, was Angel Solis.
Now
Okay,
let's not get into stats or anything just yet.
I'm
Okay,
not gonna get into stats. I just needed to throw out there Angel Solis, and I was gonna say, Ryan, that's one of your guys, okay, there. But Angel Solis, just remember that name, okay. Raymond Hernandez also was his running back. That's also another big name coming out. Anthony, he had an off game, but he still got the ball 17 times, 71 yards, got a TD out of it. So Raymond Hernandez is still balling out there. So those two were the big reason why Anthony came out on top on this game. And Cathedral, you had their quarterback Jose Herrera and Andre Valenzuela. Andre Valenzuela, their running back, he's a good little running back. He got the ball 11 times for 112 yards. So he had a 100-yard rushing game. Cathedral couldn't pull it out in this one, Ryan. But all in all, I think it was a decent game, but there was a lot of off. I think it was off for both teams. That's why that score was so low, and it was just kind of one of those games for both teams. But Anthony was the one that really pulled it out on that one.
I mean, I think what really matters when it's all said and done is the fact that uh, I actually predicted the Anthony Wildcats to win. So let's not forget that, because you just seem to go right past that part about how
You
we were
know,
all Cathedral Irish got this one, and looks like I'm gonna win that bet when it comes to the stakes, because I think I'm the one getting these predictions correct
I
here.
believe there's still 5 more weeks left in the season there, Ryan, and just like we just said right now, you never know. You
No,
never
that's
know what's
5 weeks of getting them wrong. That's 5. So you just want me to
Well,
pad my stats, all right?
as long as you can accept it now, Ryan. I mean,
They
it's
don't take.
that's
Hey,
what.
the second string doesn't come in this competition between you and I. So So I'll pad the stats. Kind of the way Mountwood Rams padded the stats against the Socorro Bulldogs,
Yeah.
all over them 63-0. But I don't think anybody was expecting anything different. Mountwood's got a
Yeah.
lot of weapons. Socorro's, they got a lot of struggles that they got to get through. They fight each week and week out, but it's tough, especially in the district that they play in.
Oh yeah, that district is just, it's a juggernaut.
The Franklin America's Trailblazers. That's a game that I thought was kind of a one that Franklin had to put a statement on, because I think a lot of people still were not 100% sold on is Franklin for
Hmm.
real. People were asking all year, yeah, because they lost to that big one against Centennial, but then they ended up beating Coronado, and everybody
Hmm.
wasn't really giving them the,
That
the
credit,
credit that
yeah.
they deserved. And I think this win against America's Trailblazers, 56-29, mind you, really showed, Bo Sparks, Shea Smith,
Yeah.
that whole group. We saw them play at the West Side Bowl. They're for real. I know you and I, or at least I did, I had them
Mhm.
ranked pretty high in the beginning of the season, and I don't think as many people were on
Right.
that train with me. So
Yeah.
let's when it's all said and done, let's remember that I was one of the original people that had them up there. So let's not forget that part.
It's your humility that I love about you, Ryan.
Oh
But
no,
I agree. I agree on this game, because Franklin, yes, we've been harping on them. We're like, you gotta watch this team. You gotta watch this team, especially you, Ryan. I'll give you that credit, especially you. I truly think this was the game that really showed they are probably one of the biggest threats out there to that number one team, Pebble Hills. And I
I'm.
think at the end of the year,
Whew,
it's
that's
gonna
gonna
come
be a
down to
game.
those two, and it's gonna come down to those two being at that 1 and 2 spot at the end of the year.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hey, what about this one, man? The Austin Panthers blowing out the Hanks Knights 56-14. Who was expecting that one this past week? I mean,
It's- Hanks come. I mean that no one was really expecting that. I wasn't, because Hanks just came off of a 70-point win over Irvin to come back, and now Austin pretty much returned the favor to them.
mhm.
And again, they're going from beating a 4A school by 74 points to losing to a 4A school by over 40 points. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of hard to judge on Hanks there.
And so I guess I will go ahead and actually uh talk about the next game, since this was actually the game that
Yes.
I covered for Football Friday Nights, and that was the Andress Eagles versus the Horizon Scorpions. Big thing to mention in this game was starting quarterback Elias Duncan not playing. Okay, I believe he actually got ejected the following week and was missing time, but uh didn't play the entire game, so he was out
Hmm.
completely. You had Donovan Melendez, junior quarterback, filling in for the role, and you know what? Donovan did what he had to do. He managed the game
Yeah.
well. Uh, I'll be honest. Receivers from both teams did not really help either quarterback. Okay, uh, I know it was a 30-8 victory, but there was a lot, and I'm talking a whole lot of drop passes over and over again from both quarterbacks. It was one of those where it's got to really frustrate your quarterback when you're hitting
Hmm.
receivers in the hands and you're making big drops. Um, but what made the difference was that Andress Eagles have a Malcolm Anderson on their side, and that was Malcolm Anderson returning from injury who hadn't played. And
Hmm.
you know what? He didn't take long for him to show up, ball out, and get noticed. He sure got noticed as early as the first play of the game, mind you, man. Uh, Ball goes wild over the quarterback's head. Very first play of the game. So everybody's going after it. Malcolm Anderson
Yeah.
scoops up the fumbled botch snap, takes it 70 something some odd yards to the house, breaking tackles. And that was a welcome back, El Paso. Malcolm Anderson is back and he's ready to ball. And he sure showed it. But overall, yeah, like I said, the Andress Eagles, with a healthy Malcolm Anderson, and who knows, with a healthy Elias Duncan, maybe
Hmm.
they're a much better team than we're predicting them to be. So let's keep in mind, that's two key players that they haven't really had to keep their roster full strength.
Yeah.
Bel Air Highlanders all over the Clinton Lions to stay. What are they? Perfect 4-0 now,
They're 4-0. Yes, sir. They're.
38-7. And you
Hmm.
know what? That Clint's not a bad team. They're a scrappy team, and
Yeah.
Bel Air handled them pretty easily.
I think,
San Elizario, what's up?
honestly, I think that's the closest game Bel Air's had all year. Correct?
Yeah, and
I
that I
think
mean,
so.
and that's not
And
really close. It's
and it's
not
not
really.
really close. So that says a lot about Bel Air, man.
San Elizario Eagles all over the Coyotes of Tornillo 49-0. This one was a little bit of a shocker to some people. Del Valle Conquistadores
Hmm.
38, Canutillo Eagles 7. One big factor to mention in
Yeah.
this game, though, is this is
Hmm.
a Canutillo Eagles that was not at full strength. They did not have D1 commit starting running back LJ Martin, Stanford commit, mind you, did not play in this game. Now, makes you wonder though, is he a 31-point difference maker for that Kentucky Eagles squad? Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely a difference maker, but you know, uh, does Del Valle still win this game if
See
LJ
that
Martin plays? What do you
you know
think?
the thing. Let me tell you what I think, Ryan. Thing about it is LJ Martin. He's a running back. He's on offense.
And a
He
punter.
runs the ball.
He does everything.
He's over there. He does everything.
And he can pass. No, I'm just
And he
kidding.
can pass, but he doesn't run the defense. And so in this game, I honestly think he probably wouldn't have been that 31. Morale wise, he probably would have changed the game a little bit. Maybe they would have played a little harder, something had a little more, oomph behind them. But
Right.
I think that defense should have been able to compete a little better against Del Valle. So I think as a whole, the team wise, I don't think just because LJ Martin didn't play was the main factor here. I think their defense probably just something was off there, and Del Valle really just took advantage of it. Um, but I don't think he was the 31 point
Yeah, I
difference
could see
maker,
that. I
as you said.
completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going and that was just not one that we were expecting. We thought it'd be a lot
Hmm.
closer.
Yeah.
East Lake Falcons over the Coronado Thunderbirds 35-21. Big victory for the Falcons. They need that victory too, district victory.
Hmm.
Luke Loma Lee, really got going offensively finally. So you got to see a little bit of offensive firepower coming out of the East Lake Falcons, which we really haven't seen too much this year. But yeah, no, other than that, it was, a close game. I don't know. Can you say much more about it?
No, no. I mean, it was kind of expected, but I like I said, Coronado's out there. They're fighting. They're fighting. They're competing. They're really putting it out there. I mean, they're struggling, but hey, they're in those games. And
That's
yeah.
no, definitely.
Mm.
Mountain View Lobos, DJ Check and his squad getting them 40-17 victory. Just really all over Irvin Rockets. Irvin Rockets not having a really good season this year, man. They're
Mhm.
one of those teams that's struggling.
Yeah, they're really
Uh
struggling.
Isleta Indians, Burgess Mustangs. That was a good, fun,
Yeah,
close game to watch. Probably one of those that not a lot of people were really expecting or too much out of,
yeah.
but Burgess Mustangs took it
Mhm.
to him. Is that Burgess's first win? I'm trying to recall. That
I
might have
believe I believe it was because honestly, Burgess has been struggling this year. And I believe you and I both picked the Sleda to win this game. And so I mean that was kind of a shocker right there. Isleda's a really good team. Burgess, but who knows? Maybe this is the Burgess turnaround for the rest of the season.
could be, and might just be that need, right there, right when you're about to get
Mhm.
ready to go into district play and stuff. Uh, Riverside Rangers, man, traveled out to Alamogordo, and
Mm.
it was a close one for a half. It was a close one. I
Yeah.
believe it was like first quarter 7-7, 14-14.
Mhm.
Ultimately, at the end, the Rangers did their thing, pulled out at the end, and Speedy,
Mhm.
Jose, Adrian, they all did what they got to do, and they won that game 35-21. Riverside's on a roll, and they're
Oh
gonna keep
yeah.
going.
Oh yeah. They're there. Like you. I mean, you said it perfectly. They're rolling right now, and they're hard to stop.
Mm-hmm. Jefferson Silver Foxes, Bowie Bears battle of the South Side at the Sun Bowl, man. That was an
Yes.
exciting game. I
Always.
think a lot closer than we were all expecting it, because not only is it a battle of South Side, but it's a battle of 5A, 4A. And,
Mhm.
4A, 5A came out victorious, just barely 17-14.
Oh yeah, I mean, and but like I said, I mean that's a rivalry right there that will always. That's the game that matters to these two schools. Aside from those district games, they get there, but this is the one game that matters. I mean, one team. I've actually heard from alumni that they can go 1-9, but if that one win was against either if you're from Bowie and that one win was from Jeff or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
you considered that, your bragging rights, you considered that a win for your season, regardless of the end of the season. So that's how deep this goes, that rivalry there.
Definitely. And then finally, you got that Chapin Huskies Parkland Matadors game that we were supposed to be at,
Mm-hmm.
but unforeseen circumstances. But you know what? Parkland got rolling.
Yeah.
They got DJ Crest back, and you know what? They balled out. Isaiah Beasley balled out in that game. We'll talk about him a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
And Parkland comes out on top, 45-21
Mm-hmm.
victory.
Yeah, no, that I mean, that's as expected as expected can be. I mean, fortunately, Chapin just this year is just really, really, struggling. I mean, who knows? Maybe one of these games they can turn it around. But right now, I'm sorry. Right now, Chapin's just one of those teams that just it seems like a rebuilding year for them.
Got it. Got it. So, next up is going to be our Soaring Seven. And we kind of wanted
Hmm.
to do a little something to acknowledge, a certain player before we actually go.
Yeah.
So, we're going to start off with our number one person in the
Hmm.
Prep One Soaring Seven. And this is going to be Abe Romero, loving memory
Yes.
from the Oregon Mountain Knights. I'm sure everybody's already familiar with the story and
Yeah.
stuff, so it's not something we really want to go into great details about. But you're not. It doesn't have to be from El Paso, but we got to give our respect where respect is due.
Hmm.
And obviously we from the Prep One family send out our condolences.
Yes.
But Abraham Romero, you are our Prep One's football soaring seven number one player, and we hope you continue to soar high, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Going on to the rest of our Prep One's football soaring seven, we've got out of Andrews High School, and I mentioned it earlier, the return of running
Hmm.
back Malcolm Anderson. Okay, and he did his thing in this game. 6 carries, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. Told you the very first play of the game took it to the house. Uh, had 2 receptions for 61 yards and another touchdown receiving in a win over the Horizon Scorpions. So we always say it: show up, ball out, get noticed. And I guess Malcolm Anderson decided to take that personally because we definitely got noticed. You know who else got noticed?
Who?
Number 3 is Franklin High School's wide receiver, Bo Sparks,
Sound.
247 all-purpose yards. The kid did it all
Yeah.
over the field. 4 touchdowns, 14 tackles, playing offense and
And
defense in that
defense.
huge district win over Americas.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, Ryan. And that 6A level, it is really, really hard to be a two-way player and really ball out on both sides of the ball. And Bo Sparks, I mean, he's the real deal.
Yep. I'll let you take the next two.
Now we got Parkland High School's running back Isaiah Beasley. You mentioned him before. No,
Mm-hmm.
he balled out. SBG right there. You got 43 carries.
Let's
43
we gotta
carries.
we gotta go talk to labor some load management on that one. Jesus.
That's
63.
NCAA video game
Hey,
numbers.
hey, some teams don't even run 43 plays in a game, and
I know, man. That's just ridiculous. For 306 yards, 2 TDs, and a win over Chapin. You know, we would have been there. We would have seen it, and we probably would have been kind of like, "Hey, he's getting the ball every play, man." Like
yeah, man, let's
that's
slow
your.
it down. But
But
he wanted to eat, and he got his on this one.
man, when you have a workhorse like that, you give him the ball and you let him go. That's all you got to
Mhm.
do. Number
And I
five,
left this next one for you, man, because you were at the game.
I was there, and like I said, this kid. I mean, this soaring seven, what it's about is really getting these kids noticed. You guys notice the ones that SBG week in week out, and Angel Solis. No one thought of, hey, little old Anthony. Hey, Angel Solis is the real deal out there. Okay, he went 15 for 20, 216 yards, one TD. He had 16 carries for 72 yards in a win over Cathedral. Honestly, we were talking about one player being a factor. This is truly one of those players that was a factor there. Cathedral really could not stop this kid. I mean, just when you thought, hey, they're gonna get the sack, they're gonna get him, boom, he slips on and he takes it down the field. And same thing when he was scrambling, and getting that ball out there to his receivers. Props to his receivers for getting open, but he was doing a great job in getting to that position of getting them the ball. And Angel Solis is a true leader out there at Anthony High School. So really look to hear that name again.
Awesome. Next up, we got another quarterback on the list from Mount Wood High School's Isaac Galvan. Okay. Didn't play a whole lot. He only threw 11
Mm-hmm.
passes. He was 9 for 11, but hey, that still accounted for 222 yards and 4 touchdowns. Okay. So in his action that he saw against the Score Bulldogs, he did what he had to do, took care of it, and got that lead up early.
Yeah.
And finally, number 7 in our Prep 1 Soaring 7, you got the East Lake High School's wide receiver, Jeremiah Escamilla. Now, talk about, a player that's going to, make plays when he catches the
Mm-hmm.
ball. Well, he had 3 receptions for 102 yards and ended with 3 TDs. So 3 touchdowns, 3 receptions. When you throw to Jeremiah Escamilla, it's going to count for something. So
Right.
that's definitely something to look for. So that rounds out our Prep 1 football's a soaring 7. And now let's get into our Prep 1's power rankings. Pebble Hills obviously hasn't been knocked out yet. So it's going to be our number 1 team. You got Franklin, number 2, Riverside, number 3. A lot of people are, giving a lot of
Yeah, there are a lot of.
wondering why Riverside dropped. Well, you got to also think about strength of
Mhm.
opponent and people that you're playing. Franklin's been getting it done over some big teams right now. Riverside, was a little shaky, so nothing to be ashamed of. They're still up there, but you got Pebble Hills 1, Franklin 2, Riverside 3. Eastlake coming in at number 4, Eastwood at number 5, Del Valle number 6, Cañetillo 7, Parkland 8. Bel Air moves up a little bit as they're undefeated at number 9, and El Dorado and the Estrada brothers at number 10. On the outside looking in, America's Trailblazers,
Mhm.
Mount Wood Rams, Jefferson Silver Foxes, and the El Paso High Tigers. Anything you want to say real quick about the top 10 before we move on?
No, I mean, you said it all there, and I was just gonna say that Riverside. A lot of people talk about that Riverside, but you said it perfectly. You got that strength of opponent there. Okay, that really plays a factor into a lot of these rankings. It's not just whether or not you're undefeated, whether or not if you're undefeated and you're putting up the points, you're gonna get noticed, just like Bel Air is. But also, teams Bel Air has played haven't really stacked up there. But once Bel Air gets into that district play and they start putting up the numbers like they're doing, they're gonna move up quick.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
we got to find out. I mean, there's teams that we need to find out if they are for real still.
yeah,
Bel
exactly.
Air, I feel like they're for real, but I don't know yet. I need to
Mm,
see how they do. But there's a couple schools on the outside looking in that I got to see if
mhm.
they're for real as well. So let's go and look at what games we've got upcoming.
Yes,
So
sir.
here is our week 4 schedule. So we'll go starting with our Thursday game. You got the America's Trailblazers against the East Lake Falcons. Who do you got? I'm gonna let you leave this one off. Who do you got in this one?
You know what? On this one, I'm gonna go with Eastlake. I think Eastlake probably can pull it out against America's. America's has been up and down. Eastlake, I feel's been a little more in their zone. So I think Eastlake will get this one over America's.
Awesome. Well, that's why I wanted you to go first because I usually pick the right teams. So I'm going with the America's Trailblazers on this one.
Wow, it's
I'm
like
going with the
that.
America's
It's like
Trailblazers on
that.
this one. Think they're gonna bounce back. It's just I feel like it's one of those in 6A. We've had those years
Yeah.
where one team beats somebody, one team beats the other. You just every week each one can beat the other. And aside from Franklin Pebble Hills, I feel like the rest are kind of on par. So
East Lake Falcons, I want you to use this as fuel going into Thursday. Okay. I want you to use it as fuel and really
yeah.
listen to what Ryan is saying.
And
Not me.
Patrick Melton and the Trailblazers, back me up on this one. Fabian's Wildcats take on La Mesa Golden
Tornado.
Tornadoes. So I don't even know who this is. So I'm gonna go Fabian's Wildcats because I know them.
I'm gonna go with Fabens too. Hometown support there. Um, uh, they're one of those sleeper teams. That's all I gotta say.
Isleta Indians versus the Fort Stockton Panthers. It's hard for me because
Yeah,
Isleta's been one of the most inconsistent teams. I
yeah.
don't know what we're gonna get. You have them play a good game against Riverside. You have them play not show up against Clint. So
hmm
I'm gonna go Fort Stockton on this one.
I'm gonna go for Stockton too for pretty much the same reason. Their Isla has been inconsistent. Fort Stockton is one of those teams that's been playing and is in district with El Paso teams, so we do see a lot of them, and they've been consistent, and they're kind of right now they're kind of bringing it to these El Paso
Mm-hmm.
teams.
Uh, woo! Andrews Eagles and the
Mm,
Midland Bulldogs. Now I know you got Elias Duncan and you got Malcolm
yeah,
Anderson back, but that's gonna be a tough one, man. And
yeah.
I don't think Andrews has enough firepower or enough defensive power to stop them. I say it's all Midland Bulldogs. In a tough one for them, obviously, but
Yeah.
Midland Bulldogs over the Andrews Eagles.
Yeah, I say Midland too, especially since they're going to be out there in Midland. It's going to be a tough environment, tough game for Andrus. Hey, but they pull it out, awesome. But right now we're going to go with Midland.
Mm-hmm. Tornillo Coyotes versus the
Cranes,
Golden Cranes. Nah, just kidding. No.
Cranes. No, it is the
Well,
Golden
I
Cranes.
mean, it doesn't matter. I feel like Crane's going to be all over the Tornillo Coyotes. I say
Mhm.
Crane in a big win.
Yeah, I say Crane as well. I'm Tornillo's struggling and they continue to struggle, unfortunately.
Woof. Next one, and this is going to
Yes,
be our
sir.
Prep One Football's game of the week, Prep One podcast game of the week, and you and I will both be at this game. The El Paso
Mm-hmm.
Tigers against the Austin Panthers, the battle for the claw.
Claw.
Uh, you got Jaden Wilson, and then you've just got two good running backs going up head to head against each other. An undefeated El Paso
Mm-hmm.
High team and Austin Panther team that honestly last week looked like they were coming out with a
Yeah.
vengeance. So I mean, it's one of those. I don't know where you go, but I've been riding El Paso Tigers all year long. So why should I sway away now? They had
Yeah.
that bye week, so to me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking they had 2 weeks to prepare for
You
Austin.
got an advantage.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go El Paso Tigers on this one.
This is possibly one of the better matchups in this rivalry in recent years. Um, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm glad we're going to be there and really see it firsthand. Again, it's one of those 4A 5A matchups. That's another thing that it's no longer going to be a district matchup. Now this is really, we get to see this early on in the season. Really, really get to it. Ryan, this is one of those tough ones. This is
Yep,
a
piss
tough
some
one to
people off,
pick.
Jerry. I know you're gonna do it. Do it. Piss some people off.
you know, um, just to go against you, I'm gonna pick the home team, Austin Panthers. But El Paso High's really got that. But I think Austin, this would be truly probably an upset, and I'm gonna go with the underdog here. I'm gonna go with Austin.
All right. And winner buys Kiki. Cool. So going on.
Yes, we all win there. I don't care what you say.
Right. The next row, I think we could gotta go rapid fire on this one.
All right, let's do it.
Riverside Rangers, Horizon Scorpions. I go Riverside Rangers all over Horizon Scorpions. Sad to say, but it's just not getting any easier
Mhm.
for Horizon. They go in 0-5.
Riverside just keeps rolling. So Riverside.
Again, Urban Rockets team that's doing real poorly this year.
Mhm.
Clint Lions,
Yeah.
inconsistent, but I think Clint Lions got what it takes to take out the Urban Rockets. All Clint.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Clint. I'm sorry to my boy Ruben out there. He fixes up this, makes me look good and all that. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I gotta go with Clint, unfortunately.
Cathedral Fighting Irish versus the San Elizario Eagles. I Cathedral's one. It seems it's hard for me because that one seems so inconsistent. Like they had some
Yeah.
good games, but then you're telling me about how they had all these turnovers. So
Yeah.
if they don't clean it up, I don't know. But you know what? I'm gonna say they get it figured out. Cathedral over Sanelli.
I'm gonna say Cathedral too. If they play the same way they did last week, which I doubt it because there's a lot to work on and get better. But if they play the same way, it's gonna be a lot closer than expected. But I think Cathedral can take it to San.
Real quick, Franklin all over Socorro.
I'm gonna pick Socorro. No, I'm joking. I'm gonna pick Franklin on this one. Yeah, that's
Del
it.
Valle, Del Valle Conquistadores, Chapin Huskies. I would have liked to say that, this is one we could really talk about and stuff, but Chapin has
Mm-hmm.
not really
Nope.
shown me much this year. Honestly, it's been a little disappointing because I was expecting more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Del Valle. They're kind of on a roll right now, and I don't see any reason why Chapin would be stopping them.
Yeah, I say Del Valle as well. I said it earlier. Chapin, it just seems to me like they're just kind of like on a rebuilding year
Mhm.
here. And it's just one of those, off years.
Coronado Thunderbirds, Pebble Hills Spartans. Pebble Hills, obviously, they're number one for a reason. I think they're gonna go ahead and get that win, but I think it's gonna be a decent game. Coronado
Hmm.
Thunderbirds, like I said, they're not the Coronado that was getting walked over. They're showing they've got a little fight in them, and it's gonna be a Pebble Hill victory, but it's not gonna be a blowout, is what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say I think it's gonna be Pebble Hills again. They're rolling as well, but like I said last week, I think Eldorado really kind of showed the weaknesses that Pebble Hills got. So hopefully Coronado can capitalize on that and make it a close game.
hmm Mountain View Lobos, DJ Check's Lobos have been rolling on the year
Mhm.
and doing pretty well. They did have a bad loss to, was it Seminole, last week,
Yeah,
against the Santa Teresa Desert Warriors, who are on a roll themselves, man. They've been
yeah,
doing really good out in New Mexico. And I normally don't say this, but I'm gonna go with the Santa Teresa Desert Warriors on this one, man.
yeah.
They've been beating some opponents that I normally don't expect them to beat, and they seem to be doing well. So I'm
Oh
gonna go
yeah.
Santa Teresa.
I mean, Santa Teresa is one of those top teams in New Mexico right now. And they
They-
like you said, I mean, they're doing great out there. Mountain View, yeah, coming off a tough loss. I'm gonna go with Santa Teresa on this one as well. I think Mountain View just got a lot to work on.
El Dorado Aztecs, Eastwood Troopers. You got the Estrada brothers. You got Ray getting ready to try to run that rock against the
Mhm.
Eastwood defense, but I mean, Hadis has a plethora of receivers to throw to. I've seen him
Mhm.
in person do his thing against the Las Cruces Bulldogs, and Eastwood just has so much firepower on offense. I'm not gonna say that their defense is necessarily going to hold El Dorado Aztecs.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say it's an Eastwood Trooper victory in a high scoring affair.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Ryan. I was about to say that. I mean, it's going to be a high scoring game. I think Eastwood will probably come out on top, but look for Eldorado to be right in there and,
Mhm.
and watch for both of us to be wrong. Who knows?
And this next one again, Hanks
Hmm.
getting obliterated by Austin. Burgess finally getting that big win against Isleta. One of these games where it's like, who is the for real team here?
Hmm.
This to me is my toss a coin game of the week where I'm flipping the coin, I'm looking, got it. And according to my coin, it's Hanks Knights. Hanks Knights are going to get this victory.
I'm just going to go with Bird. I really feel maybe last week was that turnaround game for them, and, they're going to continue, living off that high of winning. And I think they'll take it to the Hank Sites close game, though. It's going to be a close game.
Yeah, definitely. Bel Air Highlanders, Jefferson Silver Foxes. I feel like all Bel Air. Bel Air is going to go,
Mhm.
what, 5-0?
Yep, I think Bel Air too, and I think this is one of those games that Bel Air really needs to prove who they are because now they're getting into those tougher opponents, and Jefferson is not a rollover team.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Bowie Bears, Anthony Wildcats. It's hard to say. Bowie had that win
Hmm.
over Horizon. They had a close loss against Jefferson. Anthony's, been doing well, but it's just one of those where I think Bowie's got a little too much for Anthony in a
Hmm.
higher classification. I say Bowie Bears over the Anthony Wildcats. And no disrespect to the Wildcats. Just think it's one of those where, you're playing up a division. It's going to be
Mhm.
tough.
Yeah, I think Bowie Bear's gonna take this one again, but really look out for those Anthony Wildcats, man. They come out of nowhere and they really come from behind, but I think Bowie's gonna keep it.
Yep. And our last game of the football schedule for next week, you got the Parkland Matadors against the Canutillo Eagles. This is a tough one because we don't know if LJ Martin is going to be
Hmm.
playing in this game. Canutillo Eagles with an LJ Martin obviously make the team completely different. You got a Parkland team loaded with talent, and again, injuries as well were hitting them
Yeah,
earlier in the season. So I'm gonna assume LJ's playing. I'm gonna assume Canutillo gets back on the roll, and I'm gonna say Canutillo Eagles in this one. But
you know,
this is a good one. I think this is
yeah.
gonna be a
This is a good one, and what I'm about to say takes nothing away from them. It's a tale of two inconsistent teams, in my opinion, as far as what they were projected at the beginning of the year to do this season. But like you said, injuries, people not playing, it's become a real big factor. It's gonna be a good game. I want to make it fun, Ryan. I'm gonna go Parkland on this one. I think Parkland will take it to Canotillo. If LJ Martin plays, it's gonna be closer. If not, I don't know. I think Parkland needs this to really get going.
no. I mean, it's one of the I can't
Yeah.
necessarily disagree because I say it could go either way.
Hmm.
It's gonna be an exciting week for football. Um, so we're just gonna get a couple of our closing remarks again. You and I will both be out at
Wow.
Panthers Battle of the Claw game, El Paso High. It's definitely going to be an exciting game to watch. We're
Yeah.
really is El Paso High for real? Is Austin finally getting on the roll? But we'll find out come Friday. For everybody else,
Sure.
please make sure that again, if you hadn't already done it before you finish watching, like and subscribe below. Follow us on all of our social medias.
Mhm.
We won't be in the press box this upcoming week, so we'll be on the field. Look on all of our social media for highlights and just everything to watch out for. You're watching the Prep One podcast or you're listening to us. I'm your host, Ryan Vidales.
I'm your other host, Jerry Alvarez, and SBG out there, people. SBG.
Show up, ball out, and get noticed.
Get noticed.
Till next week. Thank you all.
Bye.